This is a tutorial for a modified version of the pot chest setup that appeared in my original video on the trick. It's going to replace the slingshot seed with a fish, so the only items that this requires are going to be fish, bomb chews, and hookshot. And I'm going to show the setup here in a leisurely way, so nothing will be done optimally, but hopefully it will help you learn all of the steps. So the first thing to note is that at any point during this setup, if you mess something up and you need to restart for whatever reason, you can reload Goron City from Death Mountain Trail or the Goron Shop. We don't set any permanent flags as part of the setup, so you can always restart the trick, although you might need more chews or a new fish or something. So the first thing that we have to do is talk to Darunia's son and open the doors. Now, after we're done with that, we could either go right into the trick, or we could go do something else and reload the area later. It doesn't matter. So the first thing that we're going to do is go down towards Darunia's room. And when doing this trick, it's helpful to know where the loading planes in this area are. So we can use GZ's Scenes menu if we go here to Scene. And if you see the room number for current room, we're in room 3 right now. This is the main room. And we want to know where Darunia's room loads. The thing about these two rooms is that there's a period of overlap where both of them are loaded. So for instance, if we start walking towards Darunia's room, you see that current room number is going to change from 3 to 1. And you see that it changes right past where the door is normally, right here. So this is where Darunia's room loads. So whenever I talk about needing to load Darunia's room, I'm talking about passing through this plane right here. And then we're in this middle part where both rooms are loaded. And then you see that room changes to 3 and then to 1. So when it changes back to 1 again, Darunia's room is the only one loaded, and the main room has unloaded. So the main room will unload here. Alright, and then coming out of Darunia's room, there's a similar story. This is where the main room loads, here. And then Darunia's room will unload here. Again, right where the door was. With that explanation taken care of, I'll just duck into the shop and out real fast to reload the main room. Make sure everything is starting fresh. So we only need to do a few things to set up the memory allocation, but the order that we do these things in is important. What we care about here is what is or is not loaded when we use the load planes to move from room to room. The positioning or camera will not be relevant in this part. So we're going to start by dropping a fish. And what we need to do is, while this fish is still loaded, we have to drop a chew and pull out hookshot. Then the fish has to disappear. And we have to load Darunia's room before the chew explodes, but while hookshot is still in hand. So an easy way to time this is to wait for the fish to start flashing. Okay, it just started flashing, so it's going to disappear soon. So once you see it flashing, is a good time to drop chew and pull hookshot. So you'll see as I will drop the chew, I will pull the hookshot, and I will wait for the fish to completely disappear before going into Darunia's room. Okay, fish is gone. And I enter Darunia's room while the chew is still loaded and with hookshot in hand. Now we let the chew explode, we put away hookshot, so both chew and hookshot are gone, and we're going to go back into the main room. And that takes care of memory allocation. Once we're back in the main room, we're free to use hookshot, use whatever items we want. So we can use hookshot to get up to the middle level here, because we need to go to these 3 pots up here and break them. We're going to break all 3 of them. It's important that their drops are not loaded by the time we go back into Darunia's room. You can just let them disappear on their own. There should be enough time that they will go away, or you can just collect them for safety. And once you've done that, we're going to come down here. Now the pot on the left here is the one that we want to superslide off of. As for doing the superslide, you can use chews or bombs, whatever you happen to have at the time. I'll link at least one chew setup in the description in case you'd like that. I'm going to use a bomb setup here. So just a little position setup to get the bomb into a position where it will not break the pot and still hit Link. And so once you've done the Superslide and you're in Darunia's room, you can just release, and Link should pick up the unloaded pot. Once we're in Darunia's room, we need to get a specific angle before we go back into the main room. So I've put Link's facing angle on screen in my watches. All of the watches that I use in this video will be in the description as well, so you can use them yourself to practice. In order to get that angle, we're going to do a setup here, where we go and target this wall, which should give us an angle of FFE1. Then we're going to do 5 ESS turns right, which will bring us to DCB9. Then we're going to let go of target, move forward briefly, and retarget, which will look like this. And that's just going to adjust Link's angle to align with the camera, which decreases it by 1. And conveniently, if we do 23 ESS turns left, making sure to keep tapping target as we do, so that Link doesn't, so that the camera stays behind Link. Then we get to this angle, which is 7E70, and this is the angle that we need. One note before we move on: if you're using GZ save states, you'll want to know that they don't always play nice with SRM. The things that we're editing with this setup, in particular the pointer to an actor's draw function, aren't saved in GZ states. So before we leave Darunia's room, when we're just standing like this is the latest that you can reliably make a save state. If you happen to make a save state after you've finished the SRM, the modified draw function should stay around until something else loads over it, which would happen, for instance, if you changed areas. And loading the save state would not restore the pot chest. One odd thing that may happen while using GZ states is you get a state where you're in Darunia's room, you're holding the unloaded pot, but whenever you load the state, Link just puts his hands down. If this happens, one thing you can do is reload or load a different area, and you can see now it's working just fine. The next step in the process is going to be keeping our current angle, go out into the main room, and drop the unloaded pot that we're holding. This is what will set the draw function of the pot that loaded in its place to be what we want. Before we proceed, however, a word of caution. As we leave Darunia's room, there's something we need to be careful about. When we do SRM here, it's going to have the unintended consequence of messing up the game's actor list, which can cause actors to stop loading correctly. This can range from not being able to drop a bottle item for RBA to soft locking when trying to pull out hookshot, which is something we definitely don't want. You can see what's happening from the second address I have on screen here. This comes from the unallocated space directly following the pot that we're going to be modifying, and it's going to be how the game knows where that space ends. You can see that if we just enter the main room normally, that once the main room loads, it looks like this. And then you'll see that as soon as Darunia's room unloads, when I fully enter the main room, it's going to change again. That's because that unallocated space got bigger when things in Darunia's room unloaded. But now we're back to holding the unloaded pot, and we're going to leave Darunia's room and drop it. So we enter the main room, we drop what we're holding, and you see that address is back to 0. And with that address zeroed out, you can see what will happen if I try and drop some bugs. The bugs don't even load. So obviously that's a bit of a problem. The way that we're going to fix this is we're going to drop the unloaded pot earlier. So if we start moving from Darunia's room towards the main room, we'll see that that address will change once the main room loads. Like that. Now if we drop the pot, again we set it back to 0, so things are currently broken. But if we move into the main room, now when Darunia's room unloads, because that unallocated space increases, that address is written over, and everything is fixed. Now, if we want to drop bugs, it's going to work just fine. Now that that's out of the way, we can continue with the trick. So, we're in Darunia's room, we've gotten the angle that we want, 7E70 on 1.2, and we're going to start backwalking. We're going to drop the pot when we're between the two rooms. And you can see based on the second address that the actor list is doing just fine. So now we're ready to start collecting items. In order to do that, what we need to do is manipulate the third address that's on screen, which corresponds to the get item value of the pot. Get item value is an index to a table used for giving link items from drops, NPCs, and chests. In the description, I've included a list of the get item values we can use for pot chest and what items they correspond to. That value is currently sitting at 0, and whenever it's 0, you'll pick up the pot instead of getting an item. So for instance, if I start walking towards the pot, you'll see that from way back here, I'm able to grab it, pick it up. Of course, we would much rather be getting items from it. In order to change this address, once we're in the main room, what we can do is drop 2 chews and pull out hookshot while those chews are still loaded. So, chew, chew, hook. Now you'll see that whenever I shoot hookshot, that last value is changing. And as long as I have hookshot in hand, I can walk wherever I want and keep manipulating that value. Now, an important thing to note is that values between 1 and 7F, which are interpreted as positive get item values, will cause you to immediately receive an item from the pot as if it were an NPC. This sounds nice, but unfortunately it means that the pot is going to break afterwards. So, for instance, right now it's 3-3, and if I look at the pot, I receive the bomb bag. It's very nice, but now the pot is broken and I can't get any more items. So for this reason, we want to keep to negative get item values, which range from 80 to FF. Now the idea is, we're going to do the glitch, we're going to drop 2 chews and pull out hookshot, and do some sort of setup that gives us a consistent get item value. For instance, we could go into this corner, side hop, side roll, hold down hookshot, let it go, and that will give us a get item value of D1. And that corresponds to hover boots. One note about these setups that involve hookshot is that, let's say I'm trying to get hover boots, I'm going to, again, side hop, side roll, drop 2 chews, pull out hookshot. Now, whether I hold down hookshot and then release it, or just tap hookshot very quickly, can influence what value I get. For instance, when I hold down, I get D1, which is hover boots, but when I tap, I get D2, which is iron boots. The difference here between a 1-frame tap, a 2-frame tap, and a 3+ frame hold, and the setups that I'm going to link will indicate which frames work for them. From here you can just keep on repeating this. You can drop your chews, pull your hookshot, get some value, and open the chest over and over again. Another option that's available to you if you happen to have bombs is you can drop a bomb chew, pull out hookshot, then pull out a bomb. And you'll see now that I'm still manipulating get item value, but now instead of corresponding to the hookshot tip's Z coordinates, it corresponds to the bomb's Z coordinates. And luckily, it corresponds to the truncated or integer parts of those values. So in each case, it's fairly easy to manipulate whatever we want. Here's one thing that can go wrong that you might not expect. I'm in a position here to get bomb chews from the chest, so I'm going to drop 2 chews, pull out my hookshot, get the value for bomb chews, and start opening the chest. So I get my chews, I want more chews. Wait, I just picked up the pot. What happened is that the 2 bomb chews that I used to set up the hookshot for allocation exploded after I opened the chest the first time. And that allocated a bomb where the hookshot used to be, which you can see my get item value has been overwritten to 0. So if you want to grab multiple items, multiple of the same item from the chest, you should allow any bomb chews to explode before starting to open it. One final note of caution, you may have noticed that Link's height doesn't change when he opens the pot chest. So if for some reason you're down here in the middle and you would like to open the chest, well, again, your height won't change, so you will be under the floor as you open the chest, and you will void out. So that's something that you should avoid.